I'm Adrienne Enns, and I welcome you to the Intention Sessions podcast. I want to inspire our most intentional living. In each episode, we'll talk to remarkable individuals who will share their authentic journeys and their insights with us. They're going to remind us that life's complexities can be our greatest teachers, and that intentional living can be expressed in an infinite number of ways. I hope you find some inspiration for your most intentional life right here. Today on our episode, we have the beautiful Justyna Sanders. Justyna is a California-based medical doctor. She's the CEO and founder of Prescription Lifestyle, LLC. She completed her medical training at Poznan University of Medical Sciences and has a Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology from McMaster University. She is a medical lifestyle transformation specialist. She's also certified in plant-based nutrition and is a public health researcher and visionary for transforming the field of medicine. As an expert in chronic disease reversal, whole food plant-based nutrition, using lifestyle as medicine and prevention, Dr. Sanders frequently speaks at various different events and is most known for her Google Talk and her TEDx Talk, both of which I highly recommend you watch. And Dr. Sanders, her sincere hope is that through her work, she will inspire and empower people to take autonomy of their own health and ultimately aid in the transformation of medicine. And I met Justyna 2 times on the same day. So we were both at a beautiful event at a hotel in Los Angeles. So we met briefly at the event. And then I was just laughing about this. We met later on in the gift shop. I was down there buying chocolate and Advil. So very counter to what we're going to talk about today. But we just got into this rich conversation about her story and what she's doing. And even in that moment, I knew we would be talking about it at some point. So I'm glad it's today, and I welcome you.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. I'm so happy to be here on your podcast.
Awesome. I was just laughing about that moment, though, as I was preparing for this. And I kind of wanted to start there because, when we started talking, you were really sharing about your personal experience. So you are a medical doctor now, but I want you to share how that and what you share kind of turned out a lot differently than what you might have anticipated when you set out on this path.
Yeah, so I, from a very young age, always had this connection to people. I had empathy. It was one of these things that I felt through watching my mom suffer through her ailments. She had a lot of back problems. She was almost paralyzed. And watching that throughout my youth kind of basically propelled me into a direction of having utmost compassion and empathy for other people. And I was driven so much so from a very young age to help people in that way. And I thought, what better way than through medicine? Wow, a career that's based on helping people heal from their ailments. And I thought that was one of the most beautiful things that I could do. I was raised in that type of environment, seeing my mom suffer and feeling helpless. But here was an opportunity for me to do this for the betterment of humanity in a career. And I set out, did my undergraduate degree in kinesiology, and then I set out to do my medical degree. And every single part of it was incredible. I genuinely, as hard as medicine was, when compared to even my undergraduate degree, was, I would say, 5 times or more harder. You basically give up your entire life. You say bye to family, friends. You are in self-isolation for years. That's how I would say, because there is no forgiveness and in terms of making errors in medicine. So you really have to study through and through so much that, and that's actually why they call it practicing medicine, because not one physician on planet Earth will know every single intricate part of the human body, or the what I call art of doing medicine. And that's why it's an art. It's basically an exploration of the field and seeing people from all walks of life, different ages, sexes, different cultures, and their vulnerabilities and susceptibilities to different disease processes are different than other people's. And you have to basically cast this wide knowledge kind of based net to really understand all of the intricacies and how everything interplays. And it's a lot of learning. And but it's so rewarding. It is, and was so rewarding, and loved every part of it. And so when I actually moved from Europe, because that's where I did my medical degree, I moved to the United States. I was not an American citizen. I was just here on a visa. And in order to, so I got married, and in order to apply with my green card, I had to wait it out a year. And so during that time, my gosh, my world actually, it started to crumble.
Mm-hmm.
There was so many things that I can't even tell you were going wrong. It's almost like every month there was a new surprise, a bad new surprise. I had a car accident. I had so many health problems. I fell into severe depression. I was living in Arizona at this time, and my husband, who also finished medical school and he was actually in residency, you know, he would go to work for 80 plus hours a week, and I'd be at home by myself. There was nobody that we knew. We had no family. I had no family in the United States. We had no friends. We didn't have transportation for me to be able to leave the house. And it was one of those situations where we didn't even have money for me to go to the gym or anything like that. So I would try to get outside, but there was a time within that year that going outside became actually immobilizing. I was immobilized. It was
Wow.
impossible for me to get outside. I would lay in bed, and I would be in bed until 1, 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And then I would know my husband's coming home. So I would get out of bed, take a quick shower, put makeup on, pretend like I was fine, like everything was fine. And through this, having more health problems and various different things with family that was going on at this time, and then not being able to practice at this point because I was waiting on that green card so I could apply to residency. It was such a hard thing for someone who's type A personality, that's point A to B, B to C, C to D, kind of this schematic, this I know exactly where I'm going in life, and having this plan, and then all of a sudden something to just come in my way, kind of like a roadblock, and divert me in this direction that it was so uncomfortable, so much so that, like I said, it almost paralyzed me completely. And and so I fell into such severe depression. And at this point, being a physician was one of the hardest things for me to actually speak up and say that I have a problem. But B, when I did go to see my doctor and I did finally express to her that I was feeling this way, she immediately took out her script and started prescribing me antidepressants. And I said, absolutely not.
And why did you say that? Like, why didn't you want antidepressants?
So as a medical professional, I thought that it was this kind of like a stigma, or like it would create this kind of view of me. And if it was on my record in any way, if anybody was to see this to any medical residency program that I would apply to, I thought that no one would want to hire me. I thought that it would make me untrustworthy. I thought that, being a doctor, you're supposed to be superhuman. And that's what a lot of people expect, is that physicians are supposed to be these almost like robotic people with hearts, but that they themselves are fine. They themselves have everything under control. And that's not the case. We too are
Yeah.
humans, and so many people, and I didn't know this until now, but researching this in the last five or so years, but I didn't know that the rates of suicide in physicians are the highest in any career. And so, since this is so much of a topic that's not discussed through our training, it it re-emphasizes that point even more of this fear of doctors having this on their record, and this maybe affecting their careers sometime down the road. So that's why I said no to my doctor, and I said, please don't write this down in my record. And whether or not she did, I don't know, but I never took the
Hmm.
medication. And I had to go on this incredible journey of self discovery, and a painful journey of self discovery, and finally seeing the light. But it was through a lot of soul searching and rediscovering medicine in a way that I had no idea what I was in for. And it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life, the most beautiful experience of my life. And it really solidified and created a foundation for where I am today and why I'm doing what I'm doing today with my platform and my career. And yeah, it brings me so much joy.
It's amazing. Well, and I just identify with it so much, right? Because my journey was completely different from yours, but yes, equally as painful. And I often just say it's like the best worst thing,
Yeah.
like worst as in it was awful at the time, and best as in, yeah, we wouldn't be here without this. So tell everybody what your approach is now, because to me, it's so incredibly important, and you just are bringing just a much more well-rounded body of work to healing.
Yeah. So learning through so many different, I would say, areas of medicine. And what do I mean by areas of medicine? So I focus on prevention. I focus
Mhm.
on whole, total body healing, looking at the body as not just pieces and parts and systems, but rather an integrated, cohesive kind of body, but also mind and spirit integrated into one, that communicates with each other. That, if you have something that is that's dysregulated in one part of it, and in medicine, for instance, if there's something wrong with your lungs, you'll go see maybe a pulmonologist, a lung specialist. But uh, I like to look at it on the whole. So, how every single organ system and every single body part works together in cohesion. And when I look at different aspects of medicine, and the preventive based aspects that I focus on are functional medicine, so focusing on the root cause of disease, as opposed to looking at what we focus in Western medicine right now, is looking at, okay, here's a collection of symptoms, let's put this label on it. Whereas in functional medicine, you look at it, okay, here's a collection of symptoms. Let's not just put a diagnosis on it and then a drug, but let's instead go backward and say, hey, why do we have these symptoms? Where did this stem from? Where did this come about? How did this evolve into what it is right now? That's functional medicine. And then integrative medicine, which is incredible, which blends complementary alternative medicine, which is evidence based, different modalities, and that now we're seeing is, in our time, much more. I would say a lot of people are really embracing it. And it's modalities such as doing mindfulness and yoga, types of techniques like that. So, enhancing and improving mindset and the well being in that sense, but then also looking at acupuncture, different aspects of Chinese medicine. So basically, branching all of that, bringing it into Western medicine and seeing how we can complement Western medicine with some of these modalities. And in the end, we can actually potentially have people go on less medication, let's say, for instance, and maybe try some hypnotherapy on the side. So that's where this concept of integrative medicine comes into place. My whole approach that's really unique to other physicians is that I believe that the future of medicine is blending all of these preventive-based practices under one umbrella. So I envision a Western medicine where integrative medicine, functional medicine, preventive medicine, even aspects of herbalism, Chinese medicine, all of that are just called, get ready for it,
Yes.
medicine.
I just, when hearing you talk, I'm like, I feel like I'm in a candy store, you know, like I'm just like, all of this makes me so happy. These are all things I've tried, you know, my yoga practice every day, which people are probably tired of hearing about. Like just, has changed everything. So as you talk though, I want to ask you, like, have you seen, there's this meme, and maybe you've seen it, and if you haven't, what it is, it's a picture of two lines. So the line on the left is long and full, and these people are lined up for medication, prescriptions, surgery. And then the next line is sparse and extremely short, and these people are lined up for a lifestyle change.
I do know that one. Yes. It's
I just
wonderful.
love it. So, like, in what you're talking about, like, why is the world like this? And I mean, conversations like this are a start, but how can it shift?
I think the shift, it begins, I would say, in parallel on basically in two different areas. I would say there's a shift that needs to happen on an individual basis, and there's a shift that needs to happen in the field itself. And then when those two merge, I think that's when we'll see an explosion of change. We're starting to see things happen, but I think that is where the magic, number is, or the magic calculation, if you will. But in the field itself, I would say, it starts from the training in medical schools. We're starting to learn, culinary medicine in very few schools, across the world. So teaching medical students how food can be medicine, how plants have medicinal properties, and the way we should be eating as a human species. And other classes that, they're starting to learn are things like lifestyle medicine classes in some medical universities. But it's still far and few between. And that in and of itself there's a lot of politics involved in that. And unfortunately, I think that might take much longer.
Hmm.
What I think will take actually no time, maybe a handful of years, and we're starting to see people start, this whole concept of self-care. Self-care is healthcare, right?
Yes.
So there's so much potential right there. And if we can increase that and increase the demand of that, we will undoubtedly change the field of medicine, because where there's demand, there has to be some kind of supply in the end. So when it comes to individuals, I think we're starting to see that there is this inner craving, this yearning, this desire for wanting more from medicine and from healthcare. People are going to Google, people are trying to, treat themselves, people are trying all these alternative therapists, and there is a lack of communication. And this is why my vision is to create this umbrella approach where it's just one. There's not 10 different types of medicine. It's just one, and we are all speaking the same language, so that there isn't confusion that we then, convey to the public. We don't want them to be confused. But when I say this right now, this is the opportunity to start. I would say the knowledge aspect is the most important. getting your information and knowledge from credible resources or doctors or experts that you would look up to, cross-referencing everything if you can with other doctors and researchers and experts, or if you know how to read, medical journals, that's always a great step. But it's knowledge is the basis, is the foundation. And I would say it's like a gateway. And literally, once you have that, and you have a choice whether or not you can step to the other side. And on the other side is potential change for you, for healing, for having, the most optimal health and optimal immune system. And in terms of disease, chronic disease prevention and or reversal, gives you the best chance. And that's through the optimization of all forms of medicine through different aspects of your lifestyle. So your mind, so optimizing your mind, you're optimizing your body, optimizing your social support, optimizing environmental impacts or the toxins that you're exposed to. So decreasing those, optimizing your environment to make it a healthy one. And at my foundation and what I found in the research is whole food plant-based nutrition, which I always have to say this because it's still every time, Adrienne, it gets me every time I say this in a sentence, because we've never been taught this in medical school, but it can actually reverse heart disease. And
this is what I was so struck by in one of your talks. So, and I know you're going along this avenue right now, but yeah, can you say more, well, along that topic, but also I want you to share, like, on that strain about, preventative medicine, because so often, it takes us getting really sick, to go back. So I'm curious, about the preventative and the reversal, and specifically, your conversation about diet.
yeah. So one of the most important things about chronic disease, and we're talking, dementia, heart disease, diabetes, any types of chronic disease processes that are occurring in the human body. When we look at that, you have to focus, well, again, root cause. Well, what causes chronic diseases to come about in the first place, to manifest in the first place? And when you look at whether, let's say, heart disease, you look at, well, what causes the inflammation of the innermost lining of the blood vessels, the arteries, and these plaques that are formed, and what forms the plaques, and why do they even form, and how is that plaque formation accelerated, and why is it so much more in others than maybe a different subset of the population? And do lifestyle factors interplay here or have some kind of role here? And we're finding in the research that that is absolutely the case. And what all chronic diseases, generally speaking, have in common is this aspect of inflammation. And
Mm-hmm.
inflammation, be it, like I said, of one tissue or full body, systemic inflammation over time, if you keep introducing some form of inflammation to a body tissue, regardless of which tissue it is, and regardless of what the agent is. Like right now, we're seeing, maybe viruses and bacteria, but it could be other types of toxins and toxins that your own body produces to things that you eat, or toxins just in general. Toxins, even, if you're having high amounts of cortisol and you're constantly in that fight or flight response, and your hormones react in a certain way, and then you have a certain biological reaction to that is inflammatory. So all in all of these different diseases have an inflammation type of component to it. And if we can learn how to reduce that inflammation, we in turn can and have seen in research to be able to reduce the risk of developing certain chronic diseases and reversing certain chronic diseases. We've had a lot of success, like I said, with heart disease or diabetes, certain autoimmune diseases. It's just remarkable what the body can do and how it can heal when you give it the elements and components it needs. And sometimes the needs aren't so much what you put in, but what you put out. So, like, again, the mental health, that stress aspect. putting out those thoughts, not thinking about things. So practicing mindfulness-based stress reduction, or where you're thinking about things, but not thinking about the stressors in your life, or just thinking along the lines of doing some kind of breathing techniques where you're not engaged in any thought processes at all, and you're just focused on breathing and that diaphragmatic breathing. It's a beautiful thing. And, really, when we leave the human body to do its work, it's remarkable the healing potential that we have as humans. And we in Western medicine don't put enough emphasis on that. But yet, the preventive based aspects of medicine and healing and the healing arts do. And so we need to start having that conversation more so that people can feel empowered that, hey, you can literally change and transform the future of your health. And it's really within your reach. And it's really within the end of a fork. It's with, whether or not you go for a walk in nature. It's these little things that really cumulatively add up. It's the sum of the whole, and that is what you can actually do. And if people learn how to do that, they can give themselves the best chance at preventing these chronic diseases. And see, like that meme that you said, see people now moving from that one line of trying to get pharmaceuticals to, I think I'm going to go into the lifestyle line.
Well, this is just it, right? Because, and again, just to use myself as like sample size of one, but, it was only when when I stopped with my addictive behavior, changed exercise, diet, sleep, mindfulness, like a whole series of things over several years. It was a slow process, but I was like, oh my God, my body actually feels good. You know what I mean? Like it was sort of, I
Yeah.
didn't realize that the body was meant to feel good, and it felt calm and relaxed and mobile, and I slept better and my mind was clear. And I just think we get so used to chronic pain or chronic stress that we just think, that our body is working against us. We're not on the same side, and that this is normal, and it's not normal.
Yeah, we feel like autopilot becomes our normal, and
Yeah.
that's not the way human bodies, that's not the way we were designed. We were designed for something different.
And so I'm curious too, because I wonder, and as you said, it is very much the way the system is set up and people's benefit programs and many, many things. But, for somebody who's listening to this, changing a whole lifestyle can feel, daunting. Like, so where can people, realizing it's different for everyone, but where are places that people can start and gently add to so it feels doable?
Yeah, so the small steps, I would say, first and foremost is, I would always say is the diet. And I actually don't like to describe it as a diet, but a way of eating, or a nutritional regimen. And, that's normally where I start. But I've been on this journey for some time, and I found that with a lot of people, that starting there is not the right place. The mindset, I think, is key. If you're not even in the right mindset to embrace any type of lifestyle change, then it's not going to happen. The pendulum will not swing in that direction. So I would say, first and foremost, is connect with yourself in a way you've never connected before. And the best way to do that is through silencing the mind through breath work, I would say. Uh, we have this thing called, heart coherence. We have neurons in the heart. We also have this thing called, or neurons in the actual gut. And what we found in years and years of research in the literature is that the brain, the heart, the GI system, this all of this mind body interaction has significant and profound effects on the human body and its capacity to heal. And if you are in the mindset, and I would just say this quote in quotes, a toxic mindset where it's negative and you have depression or you have anxiety or you're constantly in fight or flight, you are not living in a way that will give your body the most optimal state in order to thrive, in order to optimize the biochemical processes that are going on. So, what I would say is figuring out what the stresses in your life are and trying to work in I would say, a very holistic manner. Unless it's clinical depression, you should always check with your primary care provider. But if you just feel like this lull in life, you just don't have that zest, you just don't know why, but you feel stuck, I would say, start with breath work and start with maybe finding some, even online, some practitioners that do different types of whether energy healing or psychological counseling, things like that, where you can dive deeper into, where your mind is, why you're thinking the way you are, and see if you can maybe start healing some of that before you start taking on, a whole suitcase full of lifestyle modifications that could seem extremely daunting for a lot of people, especially at the beginning when you introduce them to trying to optimize all lifestyle aspects of lifestyle. It just, to some people, it seems impossible. But with impossible, as we know, is I'm possible. Anything's possible, and ultimately, it lies, and I say it lies within the confines of your mind, because what you think about really does manifest physiologically. And we see this too in biofeedback. I don't know, Adrienne, if you're familiar with a lot of biofeedback. And
I have at this one retreat center that I facilitate at. They often do a biofeedback reading. If I'm thinking about the same thing, when you
mm-hmm,
arrive and when you leave. So I've had it done a number of times, and it's fascinating.
mm-hmm. And it's right there as proof that your body can almost instantaneously, and you'll see, via the vitals and whatever parameters. I'm not sure what your center was monitoring, but heart rate variability is one, for instance. They monitor this and see how, just through breathing and really quieting the mind, how powerful that is on the body. And if we know and understand how connected it is to other parts of our entire body, so not just the mind, but again, I'm bringing back to the heart, and the heart's the GI tract. We are all connected. And so if you could just change that one thing, I would say it would be mindset. And I would say there's a lot of healing to be had there. And that opens up a whole other, this whole other area of potential healing, because now you might be more open to take on, let's say, the eating more plants, or eating food that's grown in nature and more organic. Maybe you'll be more open to then going for a walk. But telling someone who's maybe depressed or having a lot of turmoil in their life through whatever it is that they're going through, to tell them to eat more plants sometimes isn't the best time, and nor is it helpful at all. So I would definitely say the mind.
So interesting. And when you just said it, because as you were talking, I was thinking too, it's just this openness as well. Because I know when I was shifting things at the start, I was extremely fragile, and I'd had a really toxic mindset. So it was also just, yeah, this openness and, a
Yeah.
lightness and a kindness, and just also like, I'm going to be on my own side. So let's just be, because there can be this mentality of this won't work, or I can't do this, it's for other people, these things that just put like a full stop there, instead of just being like, let's just be curious, like let's have a little bit of lightness and fun, and again, like just really being on your own side.
Yeah, definitely. And then the other lifestyle factors, if you do start bringing them in, uh, whatever it is, reducing your environmental toxins, for instance, that will then enhance the mindset. It's this beautiful, masterful, I would say, this dance where everything is just, or like an orchestra, everything's played at the right time, and it's this beautiful symphony where magic really happens, healing happens, and yeah.
It's remarkable. I love the metaphor of the orchestra too, because then you do think of, I can bring the instruments in like a few at a time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And what's so fascinating about that, I love that you say that in such a way, and I haven't heard it like that. But yeah, if you bring in two, the music is different, but then you bring in two more or one more, and it almost changes it, transforms it into something even more beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. I
So
love
do
that.
I.
And tell us now a bit about the work that you're doing specifically. So if somebody is listening and they're like, wow, I just really needed to hear this today. We're obviously going to direct them to your website, your Google Talk, your TEDx Talk, all of which are amazing.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, tell us what you're working on and how people can work with you, and even if you want to just share general resources for people to check out.
Yeah, definitely.
Be an encyclopedia for us.
Oh, how much time do we have on this one?
Just go for it. I know it's endless.
Right? No, but yeah, so my website's prescriptionlifestyle.com, and that's my platform where I basically post what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And my Google Talk and TEDx, as you mentioned, currently because I was supposed to be launching two projects and they are on hold, one of which was a super exciting project that actually I had a few people ask me over the last few years to start doing, and I did, and I was actually going to be launching it during this time, but it's on hold currently. And it is a program, a 30-day total health lifestyle transformation program. So it's completely comprehensive. It's called Health Style. And myself and my husband were actually going to be doing this for about 50 people at a time. And we were going to handhold people through a journey of either preventing or reversing chronic disease. Now the journey starts at day 1, it ends at day 30, but really it doesn't end at day 30. It really,
of course not,
technically ends for the rest of your life. So it is a lifelong thing, and it's a commitment to not myself or anybody else but yourself. So it's a gift to yourself. And we're really pumped because this is literally what I was talking about in this podcast about, incorporating and encompassing the different aspects of medicine. So prevention, functional medicine, integrative medicine, and teaching people about all of those different facets with a very big emphasis on whole food, plant-based nutrition and other aspects like that. And then, of course, optimizing the 5 principles of using lifestyle as medicine. So unfortunately, it's just on hold, but just for a few more months. I want to see how receptive people are at this point in time. But I think that, there will be quite a big, interest in it since, as with any disease in the future, whatever we go through, if we ever go through another pandemic, which I'm sure we will, again, the best thing that you can do in terms of, your life and lifestyle is to optimize it and know how to do so and know how to prevent from, developing different chronic diseases. So I think that this could be a beautiful gift that people will, love to embrace and try out. So we'll see which month that will be released, but definitely check that out on the site. Aside from that, I'm actually right now contemplating reopening my one-on-ones because of the fact that this program is on hold. So my time has been freed up a bit more. So if people are interested, they can just go on my website, my contact form, and I'm doing lifestyle medicine consultations where we dive into all different types of aspects of the lifestyle depending on what someone wants. So that's another thing that I'm most likely going to be opening up in the next few weeks. And that's it on that front. I have some other projects that are exciting, but those will have to wait.
No problem. We will direct everybody to your website. So no matter when, and maybe even when they're listening, things will be resumed a little bit, but it just makes me think too, this has been just a time. Well, for me personally, I heard someone describe it as like the great pause, and it has in many ways felt very much like, a reset, very back to basics, reflecting on, what was working, what's going to be carried through, what's not working, what kind of just fell away that I'm like, oh, I guess I don't really need that after all.
Yeah.
So I think programs like yours and really optimizing our health and our immune systems will be particularly essential.
Mm-hmm. And like you said about the pause, everything in life needs a pause. Nature needs a pause. Our heart needs a pause. If it didn't, we wouldn't be here. So, it's like that pulse, the pulse of life. And um, I just, I think this is such a beautiful opportunity, I say, because it can, and I think, like we were saying earlier, that it can change the consciousness, and I think it already is awakening people into a different type of consciousness about self and community connection, what we really need, the essentials of life. And I think it's actually got a very powerful, positive, um, spin on the whole, on life in general. So, um, yeah, I think that we can just do what we can and take out, as much as we can out of the situation that we have and what we've been given. Like you always say, right? You create lemonade out of lemons when someone gives you lemons. So let's make a lot of lemonade.
Let's make a lot of lemonade. I love it. And I just want to thank you for everything that you shared. I want the listeners to check out your website, all the work that you have done and will do, because it's so important. And there's just energy, it's just like creating this incredible energy. So thank you for everything that you do.
Oh, thanks so much, Adrienne, and I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for listening. May some of the wisdom shared here inspire your most intentional living. For more information about this episode, this podcast, intentional living, and my work in the world, please visit mayyouknowjoy.com. You can also find my May You Know Joy and Seeds of Intention cards there, and my book, Intentional Days. You'll also find details for the Intentional Days membership, where you can gain access to a thriving community of intentional souls and lots of regular inspiration. I've got you covered. Until next time, I wish you great joy and many intentional days.